We're here today with Burke Steel at the Boulder store. Very fitting scene because back in the day, this is kind of in this part of the world and the country always had to have a place to trade. Of course, we have Steve and we have our good friend John Campbell over here too. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the store. Could you tell just a little bit about the history of the store?
The main part of the building, which is on the other side of that wall where the elk is, it was built in, I think, 1929 or 1930. It was owned by the Edwards family. I don't know if I've ever met, but one of the descendants, he came here, just sought the place out and wanted to tell me stories about it. Pictures of the wagon teams, they were freighters too, so they were bringing their own stuff in from other places, you know. And then Harold Failer bought it from them, I believe, and then my grandfather bought it in 1948. So this is like, this is our 75th year of Steel family having it. Even in the late 70s, early 80s, you could still buy horseshoes, meat, cheese, veterinary medicine, or bolts when I was a kid in here still. But 12 miles of town was a lot further back then, you know. Now it's too easy to drive to town, so we became more convenience after that.
And so it's really important to know that this whole entire community is built on generations. We're on to the 6th generation in our family ranch. Back in the day, James, my great-grandfather, settled down here in 1895.
The stories about most of those guys, that first group of guys got out here, is pretty close to the same. These are brave guys, you know, make that big trip out here. They were obviously very hard workers. They had a sense of adventure. As I understand a lot of the stories, they were also very protective of what they thought was theirs out here. There may have been people taken to the train station, some of our modern soap operas might say. It was wild country out here. These guys were dirty, tough, and they had hardships that we can't even imagine that they had to deal with.
Kind of the fun thing that I've heard around here is that it wasn't a train station back in the day, it was the Boulder Lake.
Yeah.
You know, these guys were tough and ruthless. That's what they had to be. They didn't come to this part of the world because they wanted to. They came here because they were kind of running. They were trying to get away, you know, and they needed a place to go. Taylor Sheridan in the Yellowstone series has just done an incredible job for the Cowboys, you know, and they got the Dutton family. And I just laugh because I think if they would have been in Boulder, Wyoming, they wouldn't have got 40 acres.
Wouldn't have made it.
You know? And so now we get this Beth Dutton. She's supposed to be the toughest woman on earth. If she would, you tell me the truth on this, if she would have walked into Ellen Ritchie's house, Ellen Ritchie would have had her decloak in the bathtub and saying Hail Mary within 35 seconds.
Maybe
you tell me the truth about
in
that.
her mouth to
Oh, you're dang right. She would have lasted 20 seconds. Ellen Ritchie would have grabbed her by the ear and stuffed her in a hole just faster than
There was
anything.
a lot of really tough people around here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Steve Bolden, and I'm a cowboy artist. You know, there's a story behind every one of my paintings. This film is about those stories and my search to find them. I travel to ranches across the country to see cowboys in action and to gather authentic material for my paintings. Along the way, I have the rare privilege of meeting ranchers and their families who pass along their passions in the cowboy way of life. So join me as I capture these real cowboys, their horses, and their cattle on canvas. Welcome to Art of the Cowboy.
Andrew Clark emailed us. We didn't really know who this Andrew Clark was. A lot of times you get a foreigner, a lot of people that are kind of just fishing around, maybe have a handful of cows.
He works for Foil Food Group. He had seen our website and seen us on the American Rancher. He was very intrigued about feed efficiency.
I think they contacted us a couple of times and finally said, would you take a phone call with us? And we said, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll try and take a phone call. So we had this phone call.
So he contacted us a couple of times over the last 5 years, had been looking at us. I told Jim, hey, you need to respond to this. And
he said, well, I have a proposition. He says, we'd like you to come speak at a major event in Ireland. And both of us kind of lost our breath for a little bit and thought, who, us? I mean, we're just Jim and Jamie, we're nobody. And not only that, to get into a speaking event, into a major deal in a foreign country, I mean, it's probably not what everybody would want to do, is take their first major speaking event into a foreign country. Oh, no, it'll all be great. It'll be real easy, it'll be great. And I said, well, we're pretty busy that time of year. And then I kind of looked at Jamie and I said, we don't really have the time, we don't really have the energy, but we don't know what's going to happen. And I've always believed in my life that if God opens the door, you never ever not go through that door. And so it was like the door's open. We get to go to Ireland. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to Ireland and have fun? We wanted the vacation. It was just we had way too much work at that point. And I'm thinking it's a bad time, but I said, you know what? Sooner or later, the kids and everybody has to take charge. They have to be able to take on the ranch. It'll be a good experience for everybody. And God will never give us more than we can stand. So we will be able to get through it. And so we're just going to do it. And he said, yeah, come on. And that's kind of how we got to that point. So the Foil Food Group had us come here to speak at the BSAS conference in Northern Ireland, UK. But we wanted to see Scotland first, so they let us have a drop here. And so we're going to look around the city, then we're going to look around some farms, et cetera, et cetera. We're here because we run these cattle that actually create less methane, so it will help the environment, and that's what they're interested in us for coming here. And so that's what our purpose is. We were already putting together a mini-series type deal, The Art of the Cowboy, Lucky 7 Angus story, and so we invited the film crew to come over here so that we could not only finish our series, but so we could show the history and some of the good things to promote Scotland, Ireland, and the people over here and the great work you guys are doing. But go ahead, I want to hear more about the history. You know more than enough about us now.
This building here, this souvenir shop, used to be a reservoir. And obviously it was there to provide the castle. And so the castle could survive a siege. See the scarring on the hill? That's an artificial ski slope. It's been there about 60 years and it's one of the longest in Europe.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. How much snow do you get here, or do you get very much?
Very rarely get snow.
And so
Every
they have to
10
make
years.
it. They have to make snow.
Yeah, and it's that nylon stuff. You don't want to fall on it because it takes the skin
really?
off. Yeah.
wow.
So you can ski in the summer too?
Yeah, you ski all the year round. It's mostly snowboarding now. That's more popular.
No
You know, on
way.
the little boards. But yeah, they go out there. Yeah, they have competitions and all sorts.
Huh.
The statue is a statue of David Hume, who was a philosopher, and he was a well-known atheist. And he was getting tried by the church for slander against the Almighty. But not long after, he's quite fat because he liked to drink and eat. He had fallen into the loch at Princess Street Gardens and he was in danger of drowning. And there were some women who were passing by and they knew about his atheistic tendencies. So they said to him, not before you recite the Lord's Prayer, which he duly did. And they pulled him out. And as they were pulling him out, he said, I bet that's the quickest conversion you've ever had.
There you go.
Huh, so an atheist, a well-known atheist, but he knew the Lord's Prayer.
Exactly, yeah.
We see the stories of the execution of witches and the executions and all of the things that would be considered very horrible to anybody.
Yeah.
And you guys are proud of your heritage, and sometimes I feel like in America, we downplay our proudness of our heritage. I mean, not that we ever want to do some of the stuff that wasn't good,
Yeah.
but we need to be proud of what made us great and where we are today. We don't have to go back to those days, and we can't ever do them again, but you have to be proud of what your history is, and I think sometimes the United States is not that way, and I love to see how proud you guys of everything in your heritage, and you should be, and it's extremely exciting to see that here.
This building here, the Supreme Court's straight ahead, this is the entrance to the old Scottish Parliament. And this cathedral, this is perhaps our oldest cathedral, this is St Giles.
This stuff has been here for so long, and it's just crazy how people back a long time ago built this, and it's still in great shape. I mean, look at this. This is all made out of rock and stuff, and just all of the infinite stuff. I don't know.
Look at the detail, too.
Yes, the details, and it's crazy.
There's March Braes, we get very traditional country clothes, and then there's the Royal Mile Whisky Shop, and then you've got the Cashmere again, the more traditional Scottish clothes shop.
So this is a very tourist part of town.
Very
right?
tourist part, yeah. And on the left is the French Institute, and it used to be the headquarters for the council. So that's the old Parliament, and that's not been used since the Union of the Parliaments was 1705.
So that stonework was like some of the very first stonework there.
Yeah, we didn't have square stones in those days.
Here in a little bit, we're going to meet Andrew Clark, which was the guy that had us come over here to do these events. Take my hats off to him because it's been incredibly fun so far, and we've been here less than a day. But we're excited to see him. He works with Foil Food Group and has something to do with the Bay SAS group in Ireland. We're really excited to see him. He's going to be taking us on a bunch of tours to see what we call ranches. I don't know if they call them farms, whatever here, cattle. Feed efficient cattle, and some of the great works these guys are doing in this part of the world. So we're really excited about meeting this guy. I've been talking to him on the phone but never seen him in person, and just really excited to continue this, I guess, venture.
So it's the feed efficiency element that Jim has embraced that has been particularly interesting to us as a business and within our whole cattle industry. You know, what Jim has done, it's something unique that we have no experience in the UK of. So that's why we found your story so positive, and what you've really embraced and potentially what we could learn from you is what we wanted to see and try and educate some of our farmers in the UK.
That's surprising to me because we kind of find UK as being kind of the leader in the innovation part of the environmental movement. We kind of look at you guys as somewhat the heroes because you've done so much here in a lot of areas, and I know you've done a lot of research, and so we're proud to be a part of that. But we were actually thinking that you guys are going to teach us more than we were going to teach you. The very first place we went when we got there was somewhere in Scotland, and a pretty high-end registered breeder, sells bulls for quite a lot of money and is quite reputable. And right off the bat, he was very, very proud of his animals. But he was exciting because he really wants to be the best. He was trying to change the cattle that he had already had into cattle that were more, maybe a little bit more moderate framed, because he knew that that was going to be the direction that they needed to go. So it was extremely exciting to watch that this guy was trying to become better. He didn't want to do what everybody else did. He wants to go forward.
10 years ago, I would push these bulls to be 150 kilos, 300 pound heavier, but now we're not. So
Yeah, and I think the industry needs to go backwards and do exactly what you're doing, because we got too carried away. Caused a lot of the problems that we caused a lot of the feet and leg issues because of it.
And the fertility.
So what's the sire on this one?
Yeah, this is the homebred bull, HW Mr. Equilibrium.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to see the pedigree on that one.
So these are kind of
This
some
is better.
2-year-olds coming forward.
Yeah,
These been out wintered, they only came in 10 days ago.
right.
Just we'll calve them. They're not due yet, but as you can see, we've started calving again.
We study off of the cattle that are 12, 13, 14 years old because I want longevity. I want cows that can last a long time. I want cows that are going to be out there a long time. A cow that has longevity, she's got a good udder. She breeds back every year. She has 20 different aspects that we're looking for in a cow, or she would have never made it in anybody's herd 12 or 13 years. So we try and study a lot more of those cattle and try and breed to them. And you'll find out when you get those cattle like that, they're going to be predominantly more feed efficient because they don't miss it. They don't have a bad day because they're more feed efficient than the cow beside them that did have a bad day.
Yeah. For here, and because we don't have I suppose we've got a decent sized herd for the UK, we'll sell all our cows about 6 for other people to keep on, and hopefully a lot of them will reach that. I'm not saying
You're
all
just
16,
rolling them.
but we're rolling them.
over.
We can't afford to keep them after that. We're moving these genetics. So that'll be a UK thing. The old cows are not. Some people keep old cows until they're done, but we just believe in keeping moving these genetics. And we do a lot of embryo work. So if I get it wrong, I can start again on those female lines.
We've been feed efficiency testing for a lot of years right now. We got the best data. We understand all of the holes in all of that feed efficiency testing data. 99% of the people that are feed efficiency testing still do not even understand what is wrong with the testing that they're getting and how they're evaluating the system in order to get the right animals.
Yeah.
If we cross this pedigree to this pedigree, you're going to get the same results every time. We didn't see that before because we didn't know how to evaluate the data. We didn't know all of the holes in there. And so you have to figure out who they're doing or what they're feeding and how serious they're taking it, or are they just using that data just simply to sell a bull?
Yeah,
and we see that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the food deficiency type that you've got is what would suit this place because we're a low input system and we want cows to survive outside on
Well, and where we're at, those cattle have to walk pretty fast just to graze. And so we can't afford those cattle that get too big. But if you get the cattle that are too small, they don't fit anything.
Yeah.
And we can't find feed efficiency in them anyway.
I think we'll have to rely on the likes of you for the feed efficiency because we're not likely going to go to that expense to put the bunks in and things like that.
The bunks are the cheap part. It's being able to every night at 7 o'clock, exactly on time, every morning at 7 o'clock. And you can't just hire a regular guy to do this because in order to get real perfect data, those guys have to do a really good job. I don't think most people's ever figured out how to do that.
No.
And so we're sitting there chasing the chicken industry, we're chasing the hog industry, the dairy industry. That's the lowest hanging fruit you have.
Yeah.
70% of the cost of doing business is feed. We found out that we can make that right size cow that you're getting into, and we can make that cow feed efficient. She's going to be feed efficiency on corn, she's going to be feed efficiency on the ground, and now we can make her live longer. So if she lives longer, everybody wins. We're over here because we want to help people. We want to help people. That's what our whole entire goal. How can we make you better? How can we make that guy better? How can we make everybody better? We don't want to lie to anybody anymore. It's like, so I'm the most negative guy in the world when it comes to the BS going on, and it's like, I will call a spade a spade. But if somebody needs help, I'll be the first guy there, and that's what we want to be.
This is what we want.
Yeah, that's plenty big for a cow.
Yeah, she's got a nice enough udder and right Angus head.
Right.
I mean, and she's had a year out flushing, and she's still feminine enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that cow. She can actually travel. That's what I want, because we run in big open countries, and she can actually walk. A lot of the cattle in today's world can't walk.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in looking at a pedigree on this cow.
Yeah, that's the calf off the Fleur cow by that bull. So
Gotcha. Yeah, he's kind of got some thickness and some meat on him.
We can go out here.
We got a wonderful tour here. Appreciate all the hospitality. Got to see some great cattle. Really, really fun to watch people that really care about the breed and are trying to do it right, trying to get the kind of cattle that really actually makes money for the folks.
Oh, I love it. I mean, great hospitality and good cattle, and I mean, we're just enjoying Scotland, period. This is a blast. This is great to get out and see other things, but he pointed out some pedigrees and some cattle that I really fell in love with, and then there was some that I wasn't fond of. But overall, it's a great experience, a good place. And
well, and what's interesting and fun to me is because when you go to a country, which is the first time I've really went to a foreign country and looked at cattle, you have a vision in your own mind of what the country has per se of type of cattle, and you get there and it might be a totally different than your visit.
right.
We've seen the type of cattle that we wanted to see, but it wasn't the same vision that I thought that the people in Scotland and Ireland area would have had. It was a pleasant surprise to see the good cattle that we have right here.
Yeah. I was told to expect something different than what we saw, so it was a pleasant surprise as well.
Yeah, no, it's been incredible, and we just want to thank these guys for that.
Yeah, we were in Glasgow at the weekend at a trendy restaurant, and the beef, it was tender, it was juicy, but it was bland, it was tasteless, and it just missed it. But on the menu, they were trying to push all these different sauces that they wanted, and realistically, a good piece of beef doesn't need a sauce, so you can have a bit of salt on it, and that's really all.
We've said idle for so many years and let them kick us and beat us up, because the reason they can kick us and beat us up is because they can't go after Keebler or Nabisco or the junk food people. Those guys are too powerful. Yep. There's nobody too powerful in the cattle industry that you can't beat up. And so that's why we're taking all the brunt. But when the people start understanding the truth, and they understand that they want a better, healthier body, and they can survive on 3/4 pound of beef and be very healthy, I think that the beef market is very, very secure. I think it'll be fine.
No, I agree. It's just the media. It's whether the media will let us tell our story.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
But the media is slowly changing in the last couple of years. 2 or 3 years ago, it was just beat us up all the time. You now read more about regenerative agriculture, etc., in the media all the time, and good stories. And you are starting to read cattle are the cure, not the problem.
We have a thing in the UK. There used to be a company called Ronseal, and they used to sell paint, and it was or additive that you put on fences, and it said that the product does exactly what it says on the tin, and that's what we're aiming to do. We want that predictability for our customer. it's like when a guy phones me up, he says, look, you know, I'm looking for a bull and my budget's 6,000. I'll go and he'll say, pick me a bull. So I'll go out there. Inevitably, I pick him a bull that's probably originally priced at 6,000 or 7,000 because I'm that worried that when that bull arrives, he's not going to be up to what that guy would want. So you always want to keep your customers everything, you know, and repeat customers everything. I agree, your number's the best you put together and the most accurate thing, but the guy ultimately, 90% of that's his trust in you that's making him come back.
When I'm looking at feed efficiency and the way that I'm digesting feed efficiency, a lot of those bulls with rib, it was really hard to find the real true feed efficiency with those bulls with excessive rib. And I think the reason that was is because they have so much rib that they eat so much. They're very high gainers in a lot of cases, but they're not really the feed efficient. So in America, that bull right there, a lot of people can like that bull because of the amount of rib he's got.
Yeah.
But is he truly feed efficiency? A lot of times we're finding out it's harder to find that bull in a feed efficient model. Really hard for us to find out.
Yeah, he wasn't particularly efficient, no.
I would assume that looking at the bulls, if I'm going to look at a bull that would be feed efficient, I would look at like this bull right here. I would say a bull like that would be feed efficient typically.
He'd be one of the. He'd certainly be in the top quarter of the bulls.
Those animals that in the United States they want to have all that rib. We're having trouble finding that much rib and feed efficiency all in one. And I don't know if it's a necessary trait. I don't think it has to be. And then we go to the next place. It was also in Scotland, to a very, very prominent registered breeder that sells a lot of semen and whatnot worldwide and has a really good program, done quite well. And this guy actually has a feed efficient grow safe system as well. So I was trying to talk to him about what he was studying for. They're studying a little different than what I would. They were trying to get more average daily gain and feed conversion, which in my opinion is going to maybe create a little bit more of a terminal cross animal. That's not the way I see the industry going, but at least he had a plan. You've seen a consistent pattern with every animal that he had there, consistently bigger than I like, but it was consistent. And you got to respect a man for having a consistent product and knowing exactly what he wants to do.
Right, we've done this for generations. Many generations of farm you're standing on is 200 plus years old. There is a lot of history, there's a lot of expectation that's put on you to produce beef and in a sustainable way. You know, it's a big part of what we're all about, and it's great to get these international links as well and things. There's so many similarities between what we are doing and what the rest of the world's doing. Yeah, it's just all about getting that appreciation for the work and time that you put in on your product. And there is a lot of love put into what we do. We don't look for thanks on a daily basis, we just get on with it. And you can physically look back at your achievement, and it's not like a thing where, you know, somebody's just going to come in, take your job, you're going to retire, and that's you forgotten about for the rest of you. You're making an imprint on the environment, your life. So it's really, really important to us to make sure that you make your mark and enjoy what you're doing, and we certainly enjoy what we do.
The next place was a young man. They were actually in England. This young man had a great heart and a great mind to learn. Very intelligent young man. I was totally impressed with how intelligent he was and his thought processes. And it was like, when I seen him, it was like, this guy's gonna be somebody. We were over there and everybody's saying, oh, you're cool, your ranch is coming on 6 generations, 128 years old. And he looked at me and he said, we're almost to our 400th year celebration on this ranch. He says, I hope I don't screw it up. Very smart man. I know he's going to go forward. He also had a grow safes unit. I was able to help teach him that you couldn't do it the way he wanted to do it. You have to change this. But I appreciated some of his thinking outside of the box that was going to actually be better than a lot of the places that I've seen.
With the outwintering, having a cow outside on grass, grazing, costs about £1 a week versus £20 a week inside.
£20 a week inside?
Yeah.
By the time you
$3
probably
a day.
pay for
So
the shed and then the feed as well,
yeah,
and you've more labour.
so yeah, it's about three.
Yeah, when you're talking 20% more than normal or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
a huge cost.
yeah, having the cows out is about £300-400 saving per winter, per head. We're lucky, I suppose, in a way. We've got a rocky hill, and so we'll put 100 cows on that, and they just have 5 acres for 2 days, 100 cows, and we just move them every 2 days.
Are they getting any hay, or is that just whatever
Just
grass
grass,
you grow from
yeah.
harvest time?
Just grass. Where we want to be is just all grass, and just run them in either 5 acre or 10 acre blocks for 2 to 4 days for 100 cows. I think we used to grow like maybe 5 tons of grass per hectare, sorry, so that's 2.5 acres. Now we're probably trying to grow like 9.
Really?
Because,
That's because of the intense grazing?
because of the management, yeah, and we're using a lot more of what we grow.
You're doing an intense grazing program to where you're moving them a lot? Or do you-
Yeah, we are. With the cows, if it wasn't for this, we'd be trying to move them every 2 to 4 days, the whole. Our cows really struggled, to be honest, to start with. Sort of, yeah, we just bred new ones, and then we got an opportunity on the Grow Safe bins from a neighbour who bought it and unfortunately passed away. The problem I had is I went to see people doing it here, and they had like 40, 50 bulls on it, but they feed like a high protein diet, like a purchased concentrate diet, and it's not where I...
You're just on a grass-based diet?
We're on a grass-based diet, and our bulls work, so we sell bulls as yearlings. So we don't want to push them too much because they'll be infertile. So I basically moved to putting steers on it, but all our castrated steers they've got a pedigree mum, a registered mum and a registered dad, so they're all registered.
To try and get good actual data, you have to do it perfectly, and it's just relentless. We got a guy that does it for us, and I feel sorry for him every day, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
In the morning at this time, at night this time, he has no life. It's like having milk cows. You don't have anything but milking cows.
Yeah.
When we're looking at feed efficiency, there's more than one type of cow. The answer to that is everybody kind of has a different formula. So what is feed efficiency? I think you're probably, as the people we've talked to so far, you're probably closer to needing the feed efficient that we need, which is the cow that can go out there and do her job out there on grass.
My definition of feed efficiency would be trying to get 650 or 700 kilos of beef per 2.5 acres.
More pounds of beef with the acre you have.
Yeah.
That's feed efficiency to me too. It's how many pounds of beef can I produce with this acre to ground?
So with the feed, how do I do that then?
How do you do that then?
That's what I'll do.
I mean, if I'm looking at your program, I think you have to do your bulls. You've got to find cattle that'll do what you've done. So what we found in the whole entire world, I can tell you guys know exactly what you're doing, and you've created a really good animal. You do the culling practices here, and then you go out there and you buy genetics that pull you back. So you eliminated the bad ones, and then you go buy them back when you buy a bull, right? So how do you not do that? First of all, you got to find a source that can kind of get what you've done. It sounds like you may have done that, maybe somewhat with too many, but you have to be feed efficiency testing your bulls, because you need to create bulls that are feed efficient inside that realm. You're proving them out exactly what we're doing, and you're making them survival of the fittest, basically stay in the herd or not, because you're not babying them. And then on the other hand, now you need to find and propagate the really good ones. You're going to get the genetic basis, but now you got to say, this bull, and this bull is the ones I want to use out of there because they're the best. And so you got the average. The industry average would be, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be 2.8% or something like that. And so all of a sudden we'll be at 2.2% consistently, maybe 2%. And so if I can find an animal now that averages all of those intakes, and he's less than whatever the average is, let's say the average is 2.2%, and all of a sudden I get one that ate 1.9% of body weight, right? So we got that. He's got a nice RFI. And then you go over here and say, did he gain at or below? Well, if he gained below, you're going to find a bunch of them that's below average intake, and they're below average gain. Well, guess what? That would be explanatory. If you eat less, you should gain less. What happens when you find the ones that ate less and then was above average on the other side? And that's how we figure out which ones we win. And that's kind of our own little secret. Nobody really knows how to do that. Once we started finding those animals, we could breed those animals together And once we started doing that, it was like consistently, you could determine consistently that pedigrees were making a difference.
So have you just increased stocking rate per acre?
We're basically not saying we're going to increase pounds, we're going to increase stocking rate, which increases pounds. I'm not going to get a 100-pound heavier or 100 kilo heavier calf or whatever. I'm just going to get 30% more on that same grass.
Yeah, so more kilos.
Because we're not trying to invent a cow. God created a cow, and that cow can do X, Y, and Z. We're not trying to recreate that cow. We're just trying to recreate what that cow can do inside of her, because the law of physics says X, Y, and Z has to happen. And if we try and change that, it doesn't work.
Well, I slid behind the wheel and turned the key. Got them horses spinning round. And when the rubber hit the road, I found the big hole and I put that hammer down. In the rear view I could see yesterday would be a tale I lived to tell. Sometimes the only way to get out alive is run like hell. Close encounters of the female kind never seem to work out right. And I'm a creature of survival, and once again it's time for fight or flight. Communication breakdown, was it love or lust? It's really hard to tell. But the animal instincts in me said run like hell. Well, you can blame it on the moon, blame it on the way that I was raised. And I would try to explain, but some folks would point the finger anyway. And I'm not the only one who is under a gypsy spell. The highway is full of us who chose to run like hell.
I'm going to feed the grow safe pins and start up the mixer. The mixer will keep the feed tossed up so it's all fresh and even. And we'll go up to the grow safe bins and top each one off so that they're good to go till morning when they'll need fed again.
A trail of broken hearts.
We check their efficiency with a grow safe system. It has plastic bins in which we put their feed. The bins are on scales. They also have EID readers. Those are electronic identification tags that are in the cow's ears. Each feeder can only handle one bull at a time. When the bull sticks his head in the feeder, the EID reader will get his number, so it knows which bull stuck his head in, and the scales will measure how much feed was in the feed bunk when he reached in, and measure how much he consumes when he pulls his head out. And that way we can measure how many calories each bull has consumed. And then check that over a period of time with how much weight they've gained. There you have your equation for efficiency. Intake versus weight gained. That's basically how the system works.
And I run like hell. Yeah, I run like hell.
over the course of the years that we've been here, we've learned a lot in fine-tuning the process. I mean, you can't just take 60 animals, put them in a pen, and collect data on them. You need to know what happened prior to those 60 days with that animal's eating habits. You need to know sickness, health, any health issues. So if we have an animal that gets sick in the middle of a test, goes off a feed, at the end of the test, his data might look really good. You know, he may not have gained that much, but as far as feed efficiency, he didn't eat very much. You know, without knowing the whole story, you might think that's a really good animal, when in fact, that's not the case. You really don't know if that animal was sick. The test is compromised. We're super diligent in, I guess, picking our animals, and if the data's not right, we kick it out. A lot falls on the shoulders of our feeders. You know, the guy feeding the cows morning and night, he has got to be on top of it. He's got to be watching those cows. He's got to be seeing what's going on. He's got to be, you know, integrated. Without that, you don't have anything.
And you never said a word. You always play around a different pace from the crowd. Yeah, you run with the herd. You cut me down to the bone. It went right on through. That's just the same old dependable, cynical, typical you.
I watch it on my phone now, and I track the animals and I take their graphs of their eating habits. And the other thing that we've incorporated is a feeding system that records every single thing that goes into that mixer. So when we give a ration, we're doing it on purpose because we don't ever want to go above a certain NEG. So at the end of the test, I can add up everything that was in there and then figure out what the actual ration was. So we're trying to fine tune it to get our data even more accurate.
We've definitely got our accuracies zeroed in to, I think, about as good as you can get.
What feed efficiency means to me and what it means on this place is that they have to do everything that they're designed to do. The animal has to be able to breed, they have to be able to travel, they have to be able to gain weight, you know, do everything that they're supposed to do on less feed. If they weren't feed efficient, they wouldn't breed back. They would not be good mothers. They would be chasing food all the time instead of, after they have their calf, staying there, taking care of it, you know, making sure that the calf gets colostrum. Same with the bulls. They would not be able to perform, they wouldn't be able to breed, they wouldn't be able to travel. They have to do what they're designed to do on less feed. And since feed is 70% of your cost in an animal, if you can cut that, that might be the difference between being able to pay the bank back at the end of the year and not being able to pay the bank back. We don't have them on a starvation diet. We're not trying to be cruel or anything. I think if a different ranch were to try doing the program that we're doing, their animals would not be able to do it because these have been conditioned. Their genetics are different. This is 40 years in the making. But more importantly, their nutritional needs are met. When he says that we're feeding them 16 pounds, which is not a lot, the animals are happy. They eat. A lot of times they don't even eat everything. It's not like they're cleaning up their bunks. They eat, they walk, they go get their drink of water, and they lay down, and they lick themselves. They're content.
We have happy cows.
Yeah.
That's just the same old dependable, cynical, typical you. That's just the same old dependable, cynical, typical you. That's just the same old dependable, cynical, typical you.
had the ability to go to the foil food group. Which is actually a slaughter plant, and we got to go through the whole entire process. These guys own 5 different packing houses. We got to see the very smallest one.
The Foil Producer Club was established. Now it's coming up on 28 years. So we have 4 producer groups. They register all their commercial cattle. They then verify the Angus cattle when they arrive at the slaughterhouse here. So you'll see Eamon working in the lairage today. So Eamon is the business development manager for AAQB, who manages and coordinates the supply of Angus cattle to Foil Food Group. Mainly we have strong working relationships with our farmers. Working with our farmers, we host meetings on specific topics throughout the year. So it could be grassland management, it could be animal health, it could be something to do with genetics. We'll invite industry experts to speak to our farmers and engage. Foil Farms of Excellence programme was established a few years back. We recognised our challenge with sustainability. We had a farm, we wanted to showcase what we're doing on the farm to our suppliers. The programme demonstrates 3 unique farming scenarios: a hill farming scenario, a lowland grassland scenario, and a finishing farm scenario. So a focus upon regenerative agricultural practices, the use of clover and multi-species swards. The legumes obviously extract nitrogen from the atmosphere, reducing the chemical inputs required, and also the herbs also have the anthelmintic properties, reducing the requirement to worm cattle. Also, the deep root structure of the herbs have benefits in terms of taking moisture from deeper down within the soil, also nutrients from deeper down within the soil, just the canopy cover effect, so greater yield potential can be obtained from multi-species swards, just in terms of the competition for sunlight throughout the year basically.
So our key priorities going forward is the emission reduction pathways aligns with the Science Based Targets Initiative and their commitments and a plan to net zero. So whenever we talk about Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, that's our operational emissions on our sites. They account for less than 1% of our overall carbon footprint. And then our Scope 3, you can see the upstream and then the downstream. So the upstream is all our purchases. The cattle purchased accounts for 89% of our carbon footprint at the minute based on current industry figures.
Ranked very highly in the feed efficiency because we believe that's an area that we are lacking within our industry. And then I suppose the area that we feel it has the greatest potential for our agricultural supply network is genetics. We believe that the focus was upon the dairy cow, and whenever it came to the terminal performance of the beef animal, it didn't seem to be a priority. We wanted to try and demonstrate how better genetics could be advantageous to both the dairy farmer and the beef farmer. So we located this guy here in the top right hand corner of the screen. We bought this guy. At the time we purchased him, he was a real curve bender. He was easy calving, short gestation, and he was high growth. He had more traits in the top 1% than any other bull in the UK at the time. So we collected semen from that bull. We operated a system. If you supplied us with 50 cattle in the year, you were eligible to claim 50 straws of semen in that year. It worked very well. There was great uptake. We have about 3 years now of good solid data of progeny from Elliott Bravo that have been slaughtered within our processing facilities. We look at the data at a herd level, okay? So we look at your herd, we look at your herd, and we'll analyse Elliott Bravo against other bulls, other AI bulls on your herd. What we have noticed a consistent trend that those cattle are finishing at the same average carcass weight, but they're doing that 40 days sooner.
So in the tour, we got to watch all the way from the cattle in the back of the pens. They show up a little different than they do in the United States. In the United States, we have them in big feedlots, so we'll be sending 30, 40, 50, hundreds, thousands at a facility at a time. There, a lot of the cattle comes in 4s and 5s from just farmers, but they still are able to process a lot of cattle. They've done a great job of having a holding facility where the cattle are really calm. Everything is nice and easy. They ease through the whole entire process. They kind of stun them. It's almost a painless way of getting our meat processed. And then from there on, it was just person after person in an assembly line doing their job. Bing, 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 all the way to the technology of taking pictures to it says the exact carcass of the animal. And they have very high-end government employees inspecting things and taking samples, making sure everything is clean. And then they have cameras in there that would make sure that there's not a chip or a piece of metal or any kind of bacteria residue anywhere in there. And then they would package it literally for each and every retailer however they wanted it packaged. So they would be going X, Y, and Z, and they may have to change the label, change the size, change everything, and they would just keep rolling that all day long. For them to be able to run that all day long, it was eye-opening. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Very efficient. I mean, you would be very proud to know these people and the work they've done to do a job that's probably not that pleasant. The people from the Foil Food Group put together a function at their own testing facility, their own ranch, and they brought some high-end people from the agriculture community. They had bankers there, they had producers there, they had the media there, they had it all. It was a very, very well-designed and set up thing to be educational for all.
Well, I just want to say that we're glad to be here. We're having a blast. It's been a blessing. We want to thank Wayne, we want to thank Andrew, we want to thank the Foil Food Group. And I just want to tell you that being with these gentlemen for the last couple of days, you've got a wonderful, wonderful asset right here, and I hope you can use them, and I'd like to give them a hand for this event. Anyway, I guess before we get started, Victor asked us to have a little prayer. He wants us to pray for more rain. Is that okay?
You always feel like you should break the air a little bit, I guess, with a joke maybe at the start of a venue. You know, maybe take a little of the tension out. And I got to thinking about it, so I got at the start of that, and I said, well, I never ever want to start one of these without a little prayer. And I said, so we're all going to take our hats off and we're going to bow our heads, because Victor has a request that we need more rain today. And so it went off fairly well. They got to laugh. Everybody had fun.
I'm glad. Rain's a good thing. Rain's a good thing. But at some point in time, I guess we're probably going to have to get back to farming, right? Farmers and ranchers comprise less than 2% of the U.S. population, yet we feed 100% of the people, right? We are important. You guys are important, and the world needs to understand that. Sustainability isn't about them telling us what to do and telling us how to fix the environment and us fixing the environment. Sustainability, number one, people have to eat, right? If people don't eat it, the rest of it doesn't matter. Number two, the only way they can eat is you guys have to be profitable. If you guys are not profitable and you can't make a living, you're not going to produce and they don't get to eat. And then number three, we can worry about the environment. We will go out there and we will take the smallest granule of dirt and we will nurture it, and then we will make the smallest piece of grass and we will nurture that until we have millions and billions and trillions of pieces of grass, and then we got animals on top of that. And we will stay up all night long calving those animals. We'll stay up all night long loving and getting that calf to suck and doing whatever he has to do. In our case, we might go out there and fight wolves. I don't know what you guys have to fight. We will put our bodies, our lives in danger. We'll work countless hours to nurture. Who better to take care of the environment, take care of the people than us?
So we give that first speech there. It was a really casual setting, you know. So I just basically told them what we had to offer as far as the truth about the environment and where cows fit in. Cows are not the problem, they are the solution.
Cattle, agriculture is not the problem. If you understand how methane gases work, methane gases are a natural product that comes out. The problem isn't the methane gases, the problem are the fossil fuels and what the people in the cities are actually saying they're not doing, but they're creating. It takes 1,000 years for that sludge pile to ever regenerate back into the ground. It just keeps building and building and building and building. And then if you look at the real facts about methane, even though methane is 28 times more dangerous to the ozone layer than the sludge pile they're working out over here, it's a regenerative force that comes back into the ground. It's created by the good Lord, and it's going back into the ground, and it's fertilizing, and it's nurturing the plants when it goes back in there. That happens every 10 years. We got the sludge pile building up 1,000 years, and we got the methane gas that they claim is the biggest problem that's circulating into the ground every 10 years, okay? The actual amount of methane released from a single blade of grass wouldn't change if it was just left to decompose or if it was eaten by a cow and then digested by the bacteria in their gut. The only difference is that the methane would be released more quickly by a cow or other ruminants. So unless we can stop it from raining, what are we going to have? A product called grass. And if we have a product called grass, it's going to either go through a cow and it's going to make methane, or it's going to go into a decomposing situation and it's going to go into methane. Maybe a little bit faster with the cow, but either way it's going to happen, right? That can be changed. So the cows were never the problem. The rain was the problem, right? If we're going to blame somebody, can't we blame the rain? I mean,
we also talked about the future of agriculture, because what I noticed when I was in the UK was the same thing I noticed when I'm in the United States, and that is that the community of farmers, ranchers are very aged, 65 to 70 years old. And the reason that is because if it's not economically feasible, youth will not come into the industry. And right now, it's very telling that it's not economically feasible. And if we don't produce food, if we don't have youth come in there, we're going to have a huge problem. And that was one of the topics I talked to about them as well.
In America, the number one problem in agriculture is an aging population, people that do not have children coming back to the farm. And the reason they do not have children coming back to the farm is because they can get a better job in the city. They can get a better job somewhere else. They can do easier work somewhere else and make more money. That has to change. That has to change, or we're going to have a problem in agriculture.
It was pretty humbling to be in the venue that you might be able to help another country fix a lot of their problems. So that was humbling to me.
Is there anything specific that you think increased the marbling in your cattling?
Only after we tested our cattle. I remember when I told you we were tested like the 8,000 head. we were testing for feed efficiency, the surprise came that we had the carcass traits of some of the best breeders in the world. We had no idea. I don't know why our cattle are marbling so well and our carcasses are so well. I really don't. But I can tell you feed efficiency didn't eliminate it like some people would say.
How have you seen your mature cow weight developing? Are they getting bigger or smaller or staying the same? Or it's an interesting debate in Ireland on cow size. How have you found your herd?
So the answer to that is our cows are right in the middle. They're probably smaller than a lot of the cattle in the UK that we've seen. In the really big cattle, but we call them the terminal cross cattle because they don't last, especially in our conditions. They can't take our conditions. They don't live long enough. They can't get bred up. And then we've studied this more small frame cattle that some of the world has said that we're feed efficient and they're not good at all. But when you do feed efficiency, you can test for your environment. That's a beautiful thing about it. Is if you have an environment that requires big cows, you can have big cows. Just find the feed efficient ones. If you have an environment that has to have small frame cows, just find the feed efficient small frame cows. But there's only one way to get feed efficiency or prove feed efficiency, and that's through actual scientific testing. Don't listen to any numbers that the Angus Association has. Don't listen to anything that's not scientifically proven. It has to be tested scientifically.
What should we be doing as an industry going forward? What do we need to do as an industry going forward to make our beef industry more efficient?
You guys are doing a lot of things right. In some of these realms, you guys are much more willing to try and go forward than the people in the United States. I think we're all guilty at some point in time of doing what our fathers and our grandfathers have done and what they've taught us to do. There's a reason that they did it, so don't just say we can't do what they did. There was always a reason why they did that. But can we say, we're going to look over the fence, we're going to look over here, and we're going to try some things? The last 60 days of feeding, I think that could be an incredible thing. I think we need more feed efficiency, people that want to get into it and get serious about feed efficiency. Everybody's looking at us. Let's show them what we can do. So just stay hungry. What I see with you guys wanting to get together and you're getting groups together and you're wanting to learn and do all of that, that's what it's all about. Thank you guys for inviting me over here. I want to thank the Foil Food Group, Andrew and Wayne. They've done an incredible job. We've been spending a few days around their facilities and everything they've done, and I just want to say that you guys got world-class people here. So I guess we'll start getting into this program. So I don't know how many people are in this room and they're in production of agriculture. Maybe a show of hands, maybe not very many, but there's a few here. I think everybody needs to give these guys a great hand. Agriculture is the only industry in the world that's absolutely essential for human survival.
The first conference was more of a comfortable setting for me because I'm talking to people in agriculture. I can talk to those guys. That was easy for me to talk. The next venue was a little tougher because you're going into a room of 250 people. They were all scholastics, PhDs, professors, and people that not all of them probably have the same view on agriculture as you have. Some of them were on your side, some of them weren't. They were younger, they were just not people that I'm used to talking to on a regular basis, you know. And so that one made me a little bit nervous.
I don't know the exact science, but I would be willing to bet you that I can trap more carbon through the grasses that we made than you can ever trap in a tree. And what we do with that grass is we let the grass grow up, it sucks the carbon out of the air, we turn the cows in there, it mows it off, and then it does the cycle again 2 to 3 times every year. If you plant a tree, that tree is going to be 15 to 20 years before it hardly takes any carbon out of the air. Then it has an incredible carbon suck for the next 35 years. Then it is mature and it stops taking carbon, and we have to cut it down and we have to do it again. So we have 15, 20 years of very, very little carbon reduction, where we can do this every single day, every single year. We don't stop.
At the end of the day, cattlemen have always been environmentalists. We're just not very good at telling our story. We have to start telling the world who we are. When people find out who we are and that we're not monsters, that we truly have people in the world like Wayne that wants to fix this problem, they're going to know that we are important, and then we can work together. And that's very important.
But after I started talking, I got to saying, you know, these guys need to know the same message. They need to know that if we don't have agriculture, we don't have animal agriculture, we're going to have starvation, that we have some problems. And it's like, if we keep beating up the farmers and the agriculture, just how serious it's going to be as far as being able to have food for people.
So at the end of the day, I just want to tell you guys that there's 570 million farmers in this world, right? And there's not one of us that will work together. We are the most hard-headed people in the world. If Wayne and I decided we're going to produce together, I'm going to look at him and he's going to look at me and we're going to say, oh, I don't like your way, you're not like my way. If we get into a fist fight, I'll fight to the death for him. But when we're producing, I'm not going to work with him. 570 million farmers in this world, and not one of them will work with the rest of them. Isn't that a perfect food supply? Or would you rather have somebody else, basically like the World Wildlife Fund has been told, some people in this world eat too much, some people in this world don't eat enough. We just want to be able to control that. And if that doesn't scare you guys, it should. We need 570 million people that want to work for you, 570 million people that can't work together. They can never control the food supply, doing what they do best, nurturing and loving. And with that, I'll end.
There's a group of people in the world that is against animal agriculture and agriculture as a whole. The rest of the people are just listening to the Kool-Aid that they're putting out, the false information, the misinformation, trying to make them hate us. So then you have to be able to tell them the truth. And then at the end, you get into the questions and answers, you know, and that's the one thing that I never had in my mind, that we were going to have a question. And day one, we had what we would call, well, what the Irish people said is, you have one of those arseholes in every one of these events. And this guy would have been what I would say a disruptor.
Jim, first of all, congratulations, and it's great to have you over here. And I totally agree, we've got to do more talking. But we also have to ensure that the narrative is evidence-driven. And you said something which was quite controversial about methane. You said that the same amount of methane would be released from the degradation of the pasture in the sward as would be if the animal ate it and entered fermentation. Mm-hmm. Do you truly believe that?
I do truly believe that. I truly do believe it. I think there's been enough research by the lady that I had up there that says that. Yes, I truly believe that.
And so he asked a loaded question to try and get me, you know. And it made me mad. I mean, I'm in there speaking, trying to educate you, and this guy's going to say that he's smarter than me in his venue. Well, he's not. He's got an opinion, and I've got an opinion. That's okay. But at the end of the day, I questioned him, and I basically said, number one, what are you going to be doing to help agriculture? What's your agenda going to do to feed the people when they're starving? Are you going to go over there and sit with them and starve to death with them?
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. We need to do more talking. I think that possibly that happens both ways. It doesn't really matter. If we don't have these cattle produced on the grasses today, we're not going to have enough food to feed the world. So it does not matter. And you know, and if it was such a big issue about this, has anybody ever talked about the pet industry? In the United States of America, 33% of all animal byproducts go to the feeding pets, and nobody wants to bring up that question. Right? If we're going to start talking, let's start talking. I agree with that.
And there were some smiles. There was a little bit of a weird feeling. But we kind of settled the score right there. Because what is he trying to do to make it better? We're sitting in venues trying to make a better, more environmentally friendly food. We're trying to feed people. We're doing what our heart has told us to do as nurturers. If he probably drove his car, stayed in a motel, he probably ate our food. And now he's going to try and throw a dang stick at me. It ain't gonna happen, bud. No, we need to tell our story.
Ways you can do it.
two speakers this morning. We've got Jim, first of all. Jim will give an overview to his work. He was an invited speaker yesterday at the BSES event, so this has been a busy week for scientists here with 3 days in Belfast this week. So it was great that Jim was able to come to a science conference, but from a farmer background. And with that background was able to say what he has employed in his cattle ranch in America and how he has really developed his production system. And really it was putting innovations in science into practice, really.
I think that you guys are in very good hands knowing that people really do care about the farmers, really do care about the business, and these guys take it serious. This isn't just a toy. They're taking it serious. They're taking the environmental movement serious. They're taking all of their projects serious. Anyway, it's kind of custom. We want to try and start this thing with a little bit of prayer. I guess David Brown requested more rain. Is that what we're going to pray for?
At the start, Wayne looked at me and said, "You got to tell that same joke." And I'm like, "I can't tell that way. I don't have any idea how to tell that. I can't do two jokes at the same time." He goes, No, there's nobody but two of us in here that's ever heard that joke before. It'll work again here." And I said, "Okay." Because I was going to talk some sort of stupid political joke and I was probably going to get nailed on that anyway, so I was fine with that. And he picked a guy by the name of David Brown out and he says, "You need to just, David Brown, that's the guy, David Brown, you need to break him," because I'd never met the guy. And so I do the same exact thing and I say, David Brown wanted us to pray for more rain, and it lightened the load. And it was kind of funny because we got to the end of the conference and David walked over to me and he goes, "You had no idea who I was and you've never met me." He said, "How did you pick me out?" And I said, "Well, that'd be your buddy Wayne over there." I said, "You're going to have to iron that out with him."
If you can't stop it from raining, we're going to create grass. If you can't have grass, you're going to have methane with or without that cow, right? So what we're doing is we're going to change the engine in there, right? We're going to take more methane out of the air and we're going to turn it into a very, very high quality product beef, right? That's all we're going to do. Desertification is when the grass has stopped growing and all of a sudden it turns to dirt. When it turns to dirt, then the average temperature is going to increase. It's actual data. Research has proven that without animals in many cases that you turn it into desertification. He's proven that it was going to desertification, which is going to become dirt, which is on the left, and then you turn it around because of cattle. So they're not the problem, they're the answer. A lot of people are trying to tell us that we need to plant more trees, we need to do this, and when that tree starts at that big, how much carbon is it actually sucking out of the air? When it's 10 to 15 years old, it's this big and there's one here and there's one here and there's one here. Do you think that it's actually sucking more carbon out of the air than this grass? I'm going to say I doubt that highly. That tree gets up to 50 years of age and it matures out, right? And now it no longer is sucking it out of it. So now what do? We have to cut it down and we have 15 more years of nothing going in there. I highly doubt they have it right.
Well, I can't understand why our Department of Agriculture is trying to encourage people to grow trees where we have marginal grass in this country that could be eaten better by cattle like yours. And I actually think what you're doing is the protector of the farmer is a very honourable of you to be actually doing that. I just want to commend you for what you're doing. I think it's fantastic that you're here and you're a guardian of the farming community against these global environmentalists, because I think the global environmentalists are crackpots to the highest order.
If we're wrong, at least we have a food supply. At least people didn't starve to death. I would ask these guys, so if we're going to eliminate the cows, who do you think it's okay to starve to death? Right? What group of people do you think should starve to death? And are you willing to be one of them people that starve to death? If we got a cow sitting out there, I got some food. I have never got full eating a tree. It's hard to eat a tree.
One of the most intriguing places we went was some people that was into regenerative ag, which that is where the world's heading. And to me, this might have been the smartest, forward-thinking rancher of the whole entire deal. He had regenerative ag, he had the plants growing within each other. He was moving his cattle in some intense grazing every single day. And you have to understand, when we're doing the genetics, it's all about the land. We were given the land by God to do whatever we're supposed to do with it. It's about managing that land. And the genetics is just a tool to sell the product. And I mean, that's where the world's heading, in my opinion. That's where we want to be. And that's a guy that I could absolutely learn a lot from.
We went to a dairy herd to get a half-bred dairy animal. We wanted the extra milk above and beyond to drive our weaning weights, you know, that style of thing. We sort of stepped into it, took a bit of a chance, but it actually worked quite well. We upped the ante with our quality of our bale silage. In other words, we had to readdress and rethink how we did the silage, quality of that there, and try to get it into. So we were looking to get a 12 ME bale with a 15-16% protein. So between that and the rape gave you about a 16-70% protein ration. That meant there was no external concentrate fed to the cattle from the day they were born to the day they were slaughtered.
You got my interest because there's only one cow in this world that's a perfect cow. The problem is nobody knows what it is, so we're trying to find it.
There's a whole genre of people here, and they like to have these huge big cows, continental cows, big brutes of calves, all these nice show calves. You know, they work in the old EUROP grading system,
right?
And they can barely give birth by themselves. There's that many complications. They can barely get them a calf again. And there's a whole genre of people that subscribe to that here, and if I had my way, they'd be outlawed. I learned here from the spring calving dairy guys who concentrate on converting grass to milk. In my travels, I saw this working and saw these guys converting grass to milk, and they were never really complaining about the price of milk. I said, these guys are very clever. So I went to them. I belong to a group with them. We have a business development group, and we meet once a month. I have no interest in dairy cows, but I tap into all that information to learn how to do what we did here. That's half British Friesian and half Angus, as that one would be as well.
You know, I think these cattle are a little bigger than ours. They're not even that much bigger, though. They're a little bigger. This cow right here is the same size as ours.
As a beef industry, we realised that fertiliser has been one of our highest costs. Some of our dairy friends, they said, oh, we just have to swallow it a month, and I said, no, my business will collapse with fertilisers at that price. It's non-sustainable. So we had to put a toe in the water to see what we could do. But basically we're saying, okay, how can we get to growing as much grass or nearly as much grass without the addition of compound fertiliser or nitrate fertilisers or nitrogen. Whenever I was sort of starting off and saying, oh, it's not doing that terrible, I went to our organic growers, our local neighbours, and there's not that many of them again, and I went to them and said, boys, how are you making this happen? And the first thing they laughed at me and says, you'll never grow clover as long as you're going out with a bag and putting stuff on. So when I had a choice, they gave us a fair bit of choice over how we wanted the experiment to work, and I just said, I'm going cold turkey. There'll be no artificial fertiliser, no artificial nitrogen put on the ground. And it was the best thing ever we did. This is a 6-species herbal A. It's got plantain, chicory, it's got 2 or 3 different varieties of grass and 2 or 3 different varieties of clover. We have a weed problem with Dawkins, that's the dark leafed one there. We consider it a weed. It does have about 80% of the feed value of grass, so some people say it's not a weed, but it's very invasive.
In our Oklahoma land, where we get a lot more moisture and we got a lot longer growing season, what we want to do is we want to implement this exact same thing. So we're thinking about moving electric fence every day. Yeah. So we'll move the electric fence every day, and so we have a big weed problem where we're at. So we can come in there, make this kind of a grazing system, and we're going to come through with cows. And then because we have weeds and stuff, we think we're going to come back with goats right behind them. So you put out a fence, you graze with cows, they eat the grass. Then you come right back with goats, they eat the weeds. And then we want to free graze chickens right behind them because they'll eat the bugs and fertilize the ground.
You frighten the life out of me whenever you sort of describe the scale.
I don't know if we can do it or not.
I hope you can.
When we went over to the country, we expected to learn. That's what we wanted to do, and to find out that the world saw us as leaders. It became quite clear right off the bat that that's what we were doing, is we were educating, and we were supposed to be there in an informative way to educate them. So at the end of the day, I think we did as good as we were able to help them, but at the end of the day, we still learned a lot from them, and it was a wonderful experience. And so the entire trip, we went to England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, all UK, and this whole entire venue to me was an eye-opener, because those people over there are several years ahead of the United States in environmental issues. They've been beaten up pretty hard by the environmental industry, and they're ready to learn and they want to be better. We all want to be better, and it may have taken a trip like this for me to understand just how much better we want to be. Anywhere you go in the world, the farming and ranching community is pretty similar. They're happy, they're fun, they're relaxed, they just work hard, they put in a lot of hours, and I think you're going to find that in the farming and ranching industry everywhere. They put their lives on the line every day. They work a lot of hours, and they do it with a joyful heart, and I don't know that the world has ever appreciated that enough.